Imagine this. On the foggy shores of Ireland, where the Atlantic Ocean crashes against the cliffs of Donegal, live people whose veins carry the blood of one individual who lived 17 centuries ago. 1 in 6 men carries a genetic marker of a medieval chieftain in his Y-Chromosome. And what if I told you that around 2 to 3 million of his descendants are scattered across the globe, from New York to Sydney, completely unaware of it? In 2006, geneticists from Trinity College Dublin completed a study of nearly 800 Irish Y-chromosomes. The results literally blew the scientific community away. It turned out that 85% of Irish men belong to a single genetic line. Today, we will uncover a mystery that the Irish land has kept for 1,700 years. Today, we will cover 4 key points. First, you will learn about the mysterious haplogroup R1b M269, which dominates among 85% of Irish men. This is an absolute European record for the concentration of a single genetic line. Secondly, we will unveil the secret of the Irish Modal Haplotype, the genetic signature of an ancient dynasty that spread its genes across the entire island through power and polygamy. 1 in 5 residents of the Northwest carries this mark. Thirdly, we will trace the maternal lines of the Irish back to 15,000 years ago, to Iberian refugees where the ancestors of modern Irish people survived the last glacial maximum. And finally, we will see how the Vikings and English settlers left their genetic fingerprints, time-stamped down to specific decades. At the very end, I will tell you about one finding. About 2% of New York residents with European roots carry an ancient Irish haplotype. The genetic echo of medieval Ireland resonates on the streets of Manhattan. In the past 2 decades, population genetics has literally transformed our understanding of the origins of European peoples. DNA has become a time machine, allowing us to look into the past with precision down to specific generations. For Ireland, this is particularly significant. The island, isolated by the Atlantic Ocean, has preserved traces of events that were erased on the continent by subsequent migrations. Every Irish person is a living chronicle, with their cells recording the history from the Ice Age to the present day. Today, millions of people worldwide discover their Irish roots through DNA tests. And many are surprised to find that what they thought were family legends are confirmed by genetics with mathematical precision. In 2017, following the publication of the Irish DNA Atlas, scientists created a detailed genetic map of the island. They divided it into 10 distinct clusters and dated historical events down to specific decades in the 17th and 18th centuries. Did you know that Irish Y-chromosomes hold the trace of an ancient migratory flow? Haplogroup R1b M269 shows a frequency gradient that increases from the Middle East to Northwest Europe, reaching an absolute peak on the western coast of Ireland. Imagine, nearly 9 out of 10 Irish people on their paternal line belong to this haplogroup. It's like a millennia-long settlement that rolled across the continent and stopped short before the ocean. Here's an astonishing fact. In the western counties of the island, the concentration shows record values, creating a unique biological landscape. The island has become a time capsule where the paternal heritage has been preserved in almost pristine form. Subsequent migrations have almost left these lands untouched. But within this dominant haplogroup, geneticists have discovered something truly unusual that will turn our understanding of Irish history on its head. Here are some statistics about the island. The study revealed a clear geographic pattern in the distribution of haplogroup R1b M269. 85% is the overall figure, but it conceals important irregularities. The western territories of the island show maximum fixation values. Here, the ancient genetic profile has been preserved most completely, shielded by the ocean from external influences. The northwestern lands also demonstrate exceptionally high rates. These areas have remained isolated for centuries, which has conserved their original composition. A completely different picture emerges on the eastern coastline. Territories with maritime connections to neighboring lands exhibit lower values. Here, the influence of subsequent migrations is palpable. Do you see the pattern? The further you are from the continent, the stronger the genetic memory of the first settlers has been preserved. But this is just the beginning of the story. Here are some specific numbers regarding the most intriguing sublineage. Within R1b, researchers have discovered a particular haplotype dubbed the Irish Modal Haplotype, or IMH, and its distribution is nothing short of astounding. In Ulster, the frequency of IMH is 21.5% of the male population. 1 in 5 men carries this specific genetic signature. In Western Connaught, the figure reaches about 20%. Practically identical values. Meanwhile, Munster in the south shows around 15%, notably lower. Leinster in the east displays only 10%, which is half the amount. Do you see the pattern? The concentration of IMH closely follows the geography of ancient Celtic kingdoms, particularly the Uí Néill dynasty that ruled the northern lands. This sublineage tells not just of migration, but of power and inheritance of the throne. By the way, a fun historical fact about the Uí Néill dynasty. Medieval Irish chronicles claim that King Niall of the Nine Hostages had many sons who became the founders of noble lines throughout the north of the island. Historians long regarded these chronicles as typical medieval mythologizing of power, an exaggeration of the dynasty's greatness. Every king wanted to trace his lineage back to a legendary ancestor. But in 2006, genetics literally resurrected the ancient texts. Phylogenetic analysis of IMH revealed a star-like structure of distribution, one or several founders and many quickly diverging lines. Just as the chroniclers described. The ancient chronicles received unexpected scientific confirmation. It turned out that medieval records documented a real genealogy, simply expressed in the language of their time. Legends turned out to be history, and this brings us to the next part of the story. We have traced the paternal lines, seeing how genes were passed down from Niall and his contemporaries across millennia. But this is only half the picture. The Y-Chromosome tells the story of men, conquerors, kings, dynasties. But what about women? After all, every person receives mitochondrial DNA exclusively from their mother. And this is where things get particularly interesting. If the paternal lines indicate a small group of founders, shouldn't the maternal lines show a similar pattern, right? Logic suggests this conclusion. But genetics does not always follow logic. Are you ready for some shocking statistics? What researchers discovered in maternal lines completely overturns the understanding of how the island was settled. Prepare for a surprise. Here are some astonishingly dizzying numbers. A 2004 study analyzed mitochondrial DNA from 300 Irish women, and the picture turned out to be the complete opposite of the paternal lines. Scientists found 155 different haplotypes. This means that 52% of Irish women carry a unique maternal line. In comparison, among men, one haplotype dominated throughout the country. No prevailing pattern, no group of founding mothers. Furthermore, even between the east and west of Ireland, there are no differences in female lines, unlike male lines. And the dating of these lines reaches back 15,000 years, thousands of years older than the paternal lines. This means that the female population formed through gradual waves from different sources, while the male lineage traces back to a limited number of founders. Now let's examine what occurred on Irish soil over millennia. About 4,500 years ago, at the beginning of the Bronze Age, people with the haplogroup R1b M269 arrived on the island. Archaeologists refer to this as a revolution. Metal tools emerged, burial rites changed, and new settlements appeared. Analysis of ancient DNA from Bronze Age burials shows a dramatic shift in the population. Previous Neolithic farmers, builders of Newgrange, virtually disappeared from the genetic record. A 2016 study confirmed that a large-scale genetic shift occurred during the transition to the Bronze Age. But here's the paradox that puzzles scientists. The famous Celts, considered the foundation of Irish identity, appeared much later, in the Iron Age. And genetics reveals surprisingly that there was no mass Celtic migration. The Celtic language and culture spread without a significant influx of new people. The genetic profile of the Irish was formed 2,000 years before the Celts. But here's something that truly blows the mind. In 2016, researchers extracted DNA from a 4,000-year-old Bronze Age burial and discovered a genetic bombshell. The man carried the mutation C282Y, which causes hemochromatosis, a condition of excess iron accumulation. And now the attention. The frequency of this mutation among Irish people reaches 10 to 11%, the highest rate in the world. Ireland is a world leader in the prevalence of hemochromatosis. In the rest of Europe, the frequency does not exceed 2%. Thus, modern Irish have directly inherited this trait from a person who lived 40 centuries ago. The genetic line has not been interrupted for 4,000 years. Daniel Bradley from Trinity College calls this direct evidence of continuity between the ancient Bronze Age population and modern Irish people. That migrant left descendants who live in Ireland today, carrying his DNA in every cell. And now for the most astonishing part. The same study found yet another genetic bombshell. A mutation for lactase persistence, the ability to digest milk in adulthood. Today, Ireland exhibits a world maximum for this trait. For comparison, in Southern Europe, the rate is 15 to 50%, in Asia, less than 5%. As the study demonstrated, Ireland shows global maxima in the frequency of lactase persistence. The Irish have inherited not only genes from steppe migrants, but also the biological ability to consume dairy products, a staple food for pastoralists. Both mutations, C282Y and lactase persistence, arrived 4,000 years ago simultaneously. The link between ancient pastoralism and modern biology is evident. Steppe migrants literally changed what the Irish can eat today, leaving behind a legacy in every glass of milk. A fun contemporary fact: Ireland consumes more dairy products per capita than almost any other country in the world, about 130 liters of milk annually. This is not a cultural coincidence. It's genetics in action. The ability to digest milk, inherited from steppe pastoralists 4,000 years ago, has made the dairy industry a cornerstone of the Irish economy. Irish butter and cheese are exported to 140 countries. And hemochromatosis, that same C282Y mutation, has become the most commonly diagnosed genetic disease in Ireland. 1 in 5 Irish is a carrier of the mutation. Irish doctors monitor iron levels in the blood more frequently than anywhere else in the world. The ancient genetic bomb of the Bronze Age has transformed into modern medical statistics that influence healthcare today. Now let's take a look at the genetic map of Northwest Europe. The distribution of the steppe component shows astonishing differences. In Ireland, the steppe admixture reaches around 30%. In Scotland, 30–35%. In England, 25–30%. In Wales, 28–32%. In France, 20–25%. In Spain, 15–20%. Do you see the pattern? The further west and north, the stronger the genetic trace of Bronze Age migrations. But the most interesting aspect is haplogroup R1b. In Ireland, its frequency reaches 82%. In Scotland, 70%. In Wales, a fantastic 92%. In England, 67%. In Spain, 68%. This closely matches the distribution of Celtic languages in ancient times. Genetics confirms what linguists have suspected for centuries. The Celts represent not just a cultural community, but a real biological kinship that goes back to the Bronze Age. A story that gives you goosebumps. In 2020, a team led by Laura Cassidy from Trinity College studied remains from Newgrange, a monumental complex in Ireland built 5,000 years ago. The DNA of a man from the central chamber, the most prestigious location, revealed a shocking fact. He was the product of first-degree incest, a union between brother and sister or father and daughter. Such marriages are extremely rare in ancient Europe. In Neolithic Ireland, there existed an elite that practiced incest to maintain power, much like Egyptian pharaohs or Incan rulers. Newgrange turned out to be a dynastic burial site. Monumental architecture and genetic exclusivity are linked. Only the elite could erect such structures and violate taboos. So, what have we learned about the DNA of the Irish? The history of the Irish genome is the story of 3 great migrations. The first were hunter-gatherers with dark skin and blue eyes. Next came Neolithic farmers from Anatolia who brought agriculture and built Newgrange. But the most dramatic change occurred 4,000 years ago when steppe pastoralists brought a third of the genome of modern Irish people along with language, technologies, and genetic traits. These migrants significantly altered the genetic makeup of the island. Modern Irish carry the legacy of all three waves, but the steppe pastoralists left the deepest mark. From hemochromatosis to the ability to drink milk, from the spread of R1b to the dynastic elite, each characteristic tells the story of ancient migrations. And now, think about this. If the genes inherited from steppe pastoralists 4,000 years ago continue to influence whether we can drink milk or are susceptible to hemochromatosis, what genetic legacy will we leave for future generations? In an age of globalization, we are creating a new genetic map of the world. Perhaps in 1,000 years, scientists will study the DNA of people from the 21st century and see traces of the great mixture of the Internet era. The history of the Irish genome reminds us, migration is not an anomaly, but the norm of human existence. Each of us carries within us the memory of our ancestors' journeys, of encounters among peoples, of cultural and genetic exchanges. DNA is a tale spanning millennia, inscribed in every cell. And now about what I promised at the beginning. Remember the genetic marker linking the Irish to peoples far to the east? We're talking about haplogroup R1b, which reaches 82% in Ireland. But here's what's surprising. It did not originate in Europe. Genetic calculations indicate that the common ancestor of all R1b carriers lived about 20,000 years ago in Central Asia, near Altai or southern Siberia. From there, his descendants migrated westward across the steppes. Today, high frequencies of R1b can be found not only among the Irish and Basques, but also among the Bashkirs in the Ural region. An Irishman from Dublin and a Bashkir from the Russian steppes carry in their Y-chromosomes the memory of a common ancestor from Asia. Coincidence? Or the ancient path of humanity recorded in genes? The interpretation is up to us. What do you think? Do these discoveries change your understanding of Irish history? What is more important? Cultural heritage or genetic code? Or perhaps among you are descendants of Irish immigrants? Write in the comments. And lastly, did you know that the Irish diaspora numbers around 80 million people? That's 16 times more than the population of Ireland itself? From America to Australia, from Argentina to South Africa, millions of people carry Irish genes within them, and each of them is a living testament to those ancient migrations we've discussed. The story continues.